Now, happens to be Yud Zayin Kislev this week, 17th of Kislev, 8 days before the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, will mark the passing, the Hilula, of a great rabbi, Rabbi Yosef Nahmias, very, very great rabbi of his time. He actually came from great auspices. His father's name was Rav David, and I think was actually born in Morocco, in the famous area of Marrakesh, a place we've spoken about on various occasions before here on this series. So let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, it's actually interesting. He would learn under really, really great rabbanim. Now, one of the famous rabbis over there he would learn under, I believe, was a great rabbi of the. There was great, let's just say, caliber of rabbanim at that stage in time. I think one of them was Rabbi David Sabach, if I'm not mistaken, another great rabbi of his time. That was one of his rabbis, and I think, as it says, so I think there was a connection also with the famous Baba Sali as they were growing up, which is absolutely astounding, let's just say, in of itself. And it was the Baba Sali, obviously one of the great rabbis of Jewish history. The Baba Sali himself lived between the years 1889 to 1984, and he was a head of Jewish court in Tafilalat. He was a Rosh Yeshiva. He was a Kabbalist. He was known as one of the great rabbis of his time. He was a rabbi that very much grew up in great areas, I think Tafilalat, Risani, which is spoken about from the famous Abu Khatsera dynasty, and would actually have a strong, I think, form of connection. Also, very interesting. Just as a side note, the Baba Sali himself would actually spend, before he would move to Israel, at later stages of his life, he would actually be learning in the famous Yeshivat Bet El, and during a window of time, I think in the 1920s, if I'm not mistaken, but eventually he would become a Rosh Yeshiva in Lalat, and if I'm not mistaken, and would take on various positions, and he would come and go to the land of Israel on various occasions before, and much can be said with regards to Baba Sali, but be it as it may, Rabbi Yosef Nahmias would have a connection over there with him. So we'll state what it says here. Hulamat Torah b'Marrakesh b'pi Chacham David Sabach. Chacham Yisrael b'Chatzera Baba Sali היה מגיע לבקרו פעמים רבות. כפי נראה, סבל מאוד מחלה בעיניו. So I think he had some health issues, if I'm not mistaken. אבל אף על פי כן התאמץ לעסוק בתורה, והשתדל מאוד. Very interesting. Despite some of the health issues that he might have had, he was so great. He was able to, I think, get about to printing a book that's so great, and was really, really just the Torah, as he said before, would always supersede everything. Respectively. Now, let's explore some of his books, including Sifrei Yosef Chen, הכולל דרושים על התורה ונושאים נוספים, נתפוס בתוניס. I think he would actually print his book called the Yosef Chen, the Charm of Joseph, and that was, I believe, printed, if I'm not mistaken, in the year 1915, which is actually astounding over there. So that was one of his books. Yachat im Sifro Shelatvis, et Sefer Moret Tzedek. He had another great book called the Moret Tzedek. This, let's say, encompassed various different chidushim, teachings on the seder of the code of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch, as they say. Shel Moroccon Rabbi Hacham David Sabach. So he had another great book, and remember, Morocco in of itself had many, many great rabbis of yesteryear. Yeah, that's something that we have to point out. So, it's. I think we should, at one stage of time, we will hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, going to record an entire video with in regards to maybe the great rabbis that there were of Marrakesh in of its day. I think it's very, very important to speak about them, because there really, really was a little ulsa amount of rabbis. V'chen nisvach im asrot shel nosachei v'tavsei shtarot hakol k'minhag ha'ir Marrakesh. Various different customs, as you're saying, within regards to the minhagim of Marrakesh. כמו כן, בסוף הספר, הכניס כתב כמה דפיס של סגולות ורפואות בערבית ועוד 8 פיוטים. I think he would include, or let's say encompass, in some of his teachings, let's say some of the teachings, I think in Arabic, there's different sugulot, merits, and different healings, as I say, refuot, I think, inside that. And also for עוד 8 פיוטים, I think 8 different poems of Piyutim greatness, let's just say, in himself, that will very much be encompassed in the breadth of his book. לפני שנים אחדות נתפסו נכדי המחבר את ספרו מחדש. Now, it's actually interesting. He passed away on the 17th of Kislev back in the year 1936. It was reported over the great Rabbi did. He was very, very much a great rabbi of his time. I think we've mentioned him before here in this series on various occasions before. That's something that definitely we will have to point out over here. And just importance, what we see the brilliance, just to say, of many of the great rabbis that there were of yesteryear, especially from Marrakesh and from Morocco itself. Probably had in North African countries maybe one of the largest contingents of famous chachamim, let's just say, in of itself, of those different points at time. So that's interesting. I think some of his books can actually be found. As we said before, the book, the Moreh Tzedek itself, respectively, I believe was printed in Tunisia. It was. And I think it was actually bidded quite recently. You could see it, if I'm not mistaken. But another great book happens to be. And many great books actually came from Tunisia in of its day, of that specific window of time, let's just say. And I very much recommend everyone to look into that. And I think we've spoken about a few other rabbis from the נחmia's family. I'd assume that they were most likely probably connected in some shape or form. That's something that will definitely have to stress out, let's just say, in of itself. So there was many great rabbis of that time. Anyone tuning in live at the moment, we are exploring the history of a really great rabbi from Morocco. His name was Rabbi Yosef Nahmias. He was a famous rabbi of his time. And there was someone else similar a few hundred years before, I think, with the same name, who was really a great rabbi. But I don't think they're related somehow. That's something I will definitely put out as a state from the outset in regards to the brilliant Chacham. That's something important to say over there. But Rabbi David Sabach, if anyone, let's say, descends from him or has more information on him, that would be really appreciated to know more. Let's explore a few of the highlights within regards to the famous rabbi's book, because in his book he would actually feature various different importances and teachings. Also, just using the Haimi website here as a point of resource over here. One of the teachings, it says in the Yosef Chen, I believe, come from page number 16, in the drush to the Gemilut Chasadim, the acts of kindness, Melamed Kefet Tzedek, Yitin Tzedakah Bein LeTzedik Bein LeRasha, importance, first of all, within regards to giving charity in of itself, and they're very much stressing it here in this book, in the Yosef Chen, which I recommend everyone to look into, friends. Another teaching says, Lo tirtzach al moreh hakofetz bi, va'al she'enu moreh upatach pi. This comes from Yosef Chen once again, from Parshat Bereshit over there. Now on page 78, it's very much featured, I think came out actually through his grandson possibly, but I have to double check on that also, so that's very interesting. So another teaching he would give, Melamed, Atem ledaini, otiyot emet, sha'emet hu kiyum ha'olam. So the importance of judges, one of the things they very much symbolize, that we've stated on various occasions before, they represent emet. When you've got a judge over there, they bring you out the truth of what actually occurred on different specific, let's just say, case scenarios, let's just say. So that's one of the important things, let's just say, within regards to the teachings, and something that very much encompassed inside this book. And it's a teaching that I think we've perpetuated over on various occasions before. Now another teaching, Melamed she'in rasha b'ma shenatlo zchut shiv'a amamin shosifo hamitzvot. This is coming from Yosef Chen once again. I think with page 31, this teaching comes, if I'm not mistaken, once again printed from his grandson, this important Torah book. And something that obviously we'll have to stress over also. Okay, and one last teaching of his, he says, Melamed kocha shel tefillah mitoch hasiddur. So when one is praying, for example, one should do it through the siddur. You've got someone's been blessed to have a siddur, especially nowadays, very common. It is it's something that we very much have, and the importance of using, and so on and so forth, within regards to prayer. It's an important topic. Should someone pray Baal Peh, let's just say, but of by heart. But the importance of Siddur, as we stressed on many occasions before, is really, really infinite and very important. So that's something that we'll definitely also point out over here. Now, friends, we explored the history, a few of the highlights of great rabbi over here from Marrakesh. Now, we've spoken about many rabbis that were in Marrakesh of yesteryear. He's not the first rabbi we've spoken about, probably recorded at least about maybe even as many as 20 rabbis, which is absolutely astounding. And in those days, there were many, many great rabbanim. That's in the rabbis at the time in Marrakesh that there were. Let's just give a short list because I'm just looking at it at the moment. And some of the great rabbis that actually came from there include of the caliber of Rabbi Moshe Asabag, Rabbi Avram Pinto, especially also nicknamed Hakatan. Now, Moshe Roselin, who was one of the great Dayans of the city of Marrakesh, especially I think during the 19th century. Rabbi David Chaim Sabach, another great rabbi who we just mentioned about over here. Now, Rabbi David Sabach, I think, lived between the years 1768 to 1857. He was a great Kabbalist. I'm not sure if it's the same Rabbi David Sabach, but he was a Posek Halacha. He was head of Jewish court in Marrakesh. And if I'm not mistaken, he was close to other great rabbis, including Rav Shlomo Asabag, Rav Avram Asulin, Rav Eliezer Chazan, Rav Moshe Rizolo, Rav Raphael Masud, Ibn Mocha, really great rabbis of calibers, let's just say, in of itself. And I think he authored various great books, including Maskil David, I think also Moret Tzedek, for example, and the Shut Rabbi David Sabach also, respectively. So that is very astounding. We're just going to explore for a couple of minutes just who are the great rabbis in Marrakesh. This is not obviously all the great rabbis. We mentioned about Rabbi Raphael Masud Ibn Mocha, was also a famous Kabbalist, head of Jewish court. He was a rabbi in Marrakesh, also respectively, during the 19th century. Another one, Rav Eliezer Elazar Chazan, who was another famous rabbi and the Rosh Yeshiva, I believe, in Marrakesh also. Rav Yaakov Bitan, remember we've spoken about the Bitan family on various occasions before. He was great. Darshan, he was a Rosh Yeshiva, he was a Dayan, he was a Posek. Once again, encompassing, especially 19th century Marrakesh Jewry, which is very, very much very great at that window in time, and something that we've mentioned about on various occasions before here inside this class. Let's explore a few more of the rabbis that actually came from Marrakesh over that bracketed, let's just say, time period. Also, there was great rabbis like Rabbi Shlomo Asabag, who Hasheni, who was the head of Jewish court. Rabbi Mordechai Tzarfati, another great rabbi we've spoken about. I think we recorded a video about him. He happened to be a Posek Halacha, head of Jewish court at Rosh Yeshiva also. And Rav Raphael Yosef Harush, if you remember, I think we recorded a video about a couple of months ago. Posek Halacha, Dayan, and very much, I think, become a great rabbi in Jerusalem afterwards. Rabbi Shlomo Ibn Chaim, another great rabbi, who was a Payatan, also a poet, Posek Halacha, head of Jewish courts, if I'm not mistaken. Rav David Shlush, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was a Rosh Yeshiva of the great yeshiva over there, and one of the leaders of the Kihila, the congregation, and one of the great Rabbanim, especially in Morocco of his day, and many, many Talmidim, if I'm not mistaken. He was actually nicknamed the Hamelech David. Also, Rabbi Yaakov Dahan also came from Marrakesh, or also known as Rabbi Yaakov Adahan, you could say, who was also a Dayan, a judge and a Rosh Yeshiva of his time. Rabbi Elazar Halevi, who was, I think, more recent. He was a Rosh Yeshiva, one of the great rabbis. He was also known for, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his book called Avodat Levi, which was a book encompassing on the Shas Talmud, I believe. Rav Avram Abitbol, another rabbi, I think we recorded a video about him quite recently, or Abutbol, also you could say he was a Rosh Yeshiva and a Darshan in Marrakesh and the Kila. I think various different congregations that were actually, let's just say, blossoming nearby. Also Rav Machluf Abu Chatzer, of course, you have to point out, we mentioned about the Abu Chatzer rabbinic dynasty at the beginning, especially with the Baba Sali. Rav Machluf, I think, would go on to become a judge, head of Jewish court in Marrakesh, in Morocco, also, respectively. So he was a key rabbi. Also, Rav Machluf, we could say a few other things. He passed away in 1980, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he was the son of Rav Yaakov Abu Chatzer, if I'm not mistaken, which is very, very interesting. And he would be the author of various different great books, including Yafeh Sha'ah, Ma'ayin Yavo, Kilat Yaakov, and Michlal Yofi. Yeah, so various different great collection of books he would have. Another rabbi we should point out is Rabbi Yosef Nahmias. I think he was definitely much more recent. Rabbi Yosef Nahmias was. I think he himself passed away in the year 2018, only about 7 years ago. I think the 26th of Tevet is Hilula. He was also a Dayan, a Posek, an author. He was in Morocco. I think he would eventually come to Eretz Israel, if I'm not mistaken, and be part of the rabbinate in the city of Naharia and head of Jewish court in Beersheba. I think he will be, and the great Bet Din Gadol, the large Bet Din over there, respectively, and was known as one of the great rabbis of Morocco of his times. Very, very interesting, friends. Over here, we're a community here. We are learning about famous rabbis. Yes, sir. Yeah. If you've noticed, probably for the last 18 months at least, or 2 years, we've been pretty much recording a few videos at least a week on great Chachamim of yesterday, and that's something that we continue about because there's so many rabbis. I think we recorded, if I'm not mistaken, maybe as many as about 1,000, close to 1,400 Chachamim of yesterday here inside the series, which is definitely a phenomenal achievement. And I have to point that over here. Maybe we go from strength to strength, learn about more great rabbis, because there were so many. And it's always great to speak about rabbi that actually came from Morocco, because Morocco, the amount of wisdom over there and Torah brilliance was absolutely phenomenal. And if anyone has any more of his reading material, let's just say, please don't hesitate. Send me an email. I would love to hear more within regards to that, where he would come in and speak about so many different topics, especially in his book, and various different importances. And let's just state that the importance of it is absolutely phenomenal. Rabbi Yosef Nahmias, a famous rabbi of his time, a rabbi I believe has spoken about it. Now, friends, we're a community here. We don't just record videos about great rabbis of yesteryear. Let's tell you guys just for a minute what else that we do. In the meantime, over here, we record a tidbit with an inspirational Jewish personality here in modern day. That's something I will definitely stress out at the moment, which has proved to be a very, very successful series where we've recorded with more than probably about 500 different Torah personalities. That's something that we have to point out within regards to that. And very, very much proud about this also, because it's, I think, very, very important for the next generation to get inspired. And one of the best ways of doing it is by connecting people with, very important stories in of itself. And we've had some very prominent rabbis also record. Another thing that we do here on this channel is that we record a daily tidbit on the Daf Yomi daily page of wisdom. The whole world learns together at the same time period, the same various track dates. So that's one thing that we're trying to also do here on this channel, is to actually include that side. So how important it is. Also, we do tours all over Israel. If you haven't noticed yet, we go around different cities. We were in, if I'm not mistaken, we went to Bet Shemesh already here inside this series. We've been to Bnei Brak. We filmed in Yerushalayim on various different videos. Also, that's something that we have to point out. And many other places. We've been to Gush Etzion. The plan is to go all over the country, Be'ezrat Hashem, and to explore and to see and to do, hopefully just important things wherever we go, Be'ezrat Hashem, Yidbrach. Also, we do some short clips. Also, we try and put on within regards to different sites or things pertaining to Torah, respectively. That's one very, very important aspect of me, because I think without the Torah, where would we be? That's something I will definitely point out here from the outset over here. So that's very, very interesting. And anyone, please subscribe to the channel. And if you feel anyone is interested in whichever community you guys happen to be in, or whichever friends, please share the group to them and tell them also to subscribe, and they can enjoy lot of benefits of Torah learning, exploring, educating, so on and so forth. So it's very, very important. And I'm here for everyone. If you're a fan of the channel, I appreciate you reaching out, and to hear more within regards to all the fantastic people. It's good to connect to various different neshamot. That's what I would definitely say. Actually heard that in shiur today, and that's something I'll definitely stress out. So thanks everyone for watching over Hilul of great rabbi from Morocco, and his name was, as we said before, Rabbi Yosef Nahmias. He passed away in 1936, so hence that was about 89 years ago, close to 90 years ago, 17th of Kislev, naturally, 8 days before the festival of Hanukkah, the festival of lights. So, if you have any family that actually descend from Marrakesh, so respectfully, please send me any information you got. I always have thirst for knowledge and to gain the breadth of importances, let's just say, in of itself, all over the place. So I think on that note, I'm going to wish you a good night and thanks for watching and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.